Good evening, everybody. I call to order the Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, May 7th, 2019. It is 7:30 p.m. I ask that you would please rise for the invocation and the flag salute. Please join me in prayer. Heavenly Father, I thank you for the opportunity to come together as a council and as a city and have discussion and make decisions for the improvement and the furtherance of our city and our citizens. We thank you, Father God, for your guidance and your wisdom. In Jesus' name, amen. Mr. Palmer, will the birthday boy please lead us in the flag salute?
Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started tonight, I'd like to start out by something I've been thinking about. We've had some challenges this go-round with our big trash, and I want to apologize for any hiccups that we've had, but it's been due to a lot of rain, some broken down equipment, and we need to look at this, I believe, and see what we can do to try to smooth the operation. I think it's worked very well for 2 years now, but this time there's been some hiccups, and that's due to a lot of numerous factors. So I think we'll be looking at that and seeing what we can do to address that to try to keep the stress level down on our citizens having all the trash on the curb. But I would like to say that our Public Works employees are doing a great job. I do appreciate them. Item 1 is the consent docket A through G. Do we have any questions or motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve A through G. The minutes have been amended, and that motion would include those minutes being amended.
Are there particular minutes that?
It was the minutes of the 16th meeting. You have a copy of them on your chair. April 16th, page 4 and 5.
I don't have those. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 1543, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany declaring a prototype Aero Commander aircraft known as the Blue Goose surplus and approving and authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding between the Oklahoma Historical Society and the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, which provides for the transfer of the Blue Goose to the Oklahoma Historical Society, restoration by private funding, and placement on a concrete support pedestal and metal support structure in Eldon Lime Park. I'm excited about this. Tonight we have to make a presentation Mr. Dave Amos and Dan Provo, and this is something that I think is exciting because there's a whole lot of work that's gone into this by a whole lot of people, starting with Mr. Tom Ray, whose picture is on the wall, and some of his family, and his widow is here with us tonight. So I'm excited to try to see this thing come to fruition and get this particular project completed. Mr. Amos?
That works. Good afternoon. Good evening. How are you all?
We're good.
Greetings, Chamber, Council. guests. My name's Dave Amos, and my grandfather was the founder of the Commander Factory over here on 50th. They owned it back in between 1952 and 1958 and built about 800 airplanes. As a young boy, my dad would take me out to my grandfather's, and I would insist that he drive by the Commander Factory. And as an 8-year-old, 6-year-old, 5-year-old, we'd see the Blue Goose sitting out there in front of the factory. And it's been a long, long journey from then until right now, and we're on about the 2-yard line, ready to push it over the goal line. And I want to give you all a little background on the aircraft. If y'all are familiar with it, it sat out in front of the factory for years and years. It went from there to the terminal, from there to the fairgrounds, and from the fairgrounds out to Metrotech, and then to your public works yard over here on 50th, and then where it sits today at Francis Tuttle, where two of the guys that were on the floor at the factory, Kenny Payton and Dennis, are teaching sheet metal students how to do sheet metal on aircraft. And these guys they graduate and they go to AAR, they go to Tinker, they go to Rockwell, to Field, to Air Inc., and so on. And Kenny has taken this little airplane under his wing as a serious labor of love. And Francis Tuttle's about 2 miles from my house, so I go out there a lot and watch the little airplane getting restored, and it's really exciting to watch it go from where it sat at the factory to the fairgrounds to a state of serious dilapidation and disrepair to where it is right now. And we'll start off with some pictures here. This is a little heritage of my family. That's my grandfather on the left, WD Sr., WD Jr., and I'm WD the third. So I'm really proud of my family's heritage. We had a construction company here, 4th generation, and my dad retired in 2012, and that was that. But we had Amos Construction Company down on Exchange. There's the Commander Factory from the sky over here at Wiley Post. And we also own Downtown Air Park. We were the oldest and largest Aero Commander facility in the world for, many, many years. These are the two back airplanes were current production, or were production models back in the day. The Blue Goose was the prototype aircraft that a gentleman named Ted Smith was an aeronautical engineer during World War II for, I believe, Douglas Aircraft. And he took the A-20 Havoc bomber and miniaturized it, and had this brilliant idea to make a twin-engine business class aircraft right after World War II. And the Blue Goose was the prototype, and it was just put together with bubble gum and shoestrings and just whatever they could find to put this little airplane together. And here's a picture of it back in circa who knows what, probably 1949, 50, 51, somewhere in there. On May 9th, 1951, the mechanics took the left propeller off of this airplane and put it in the baggage compartment, and you can see there's no prop on there, but they flew the airplane from Wiley Post to Washington, D.C. on one engine to prove its safety and ability to operate on one engine. And it caught the eye of one President Dwight D. Eisenhower, and he bought about 12 airplanes from the factory out here to use as Air Force One to fly to his little farm up in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. And that's a very famous picture right there. The photo ship that's flying formation with that airplane, my grandfather's brother, my great uncle, R.T. Amos, was in the airplane that day. I don't know if he took that picture or not, but knowing him, he probably would have taken credit for it. A little history here. So in '63, the Blue Goose was sold to a private individual, and it changed hands 2 or 3 times, but Rockwell ended up buying it back, and they put it out in front of the factory. And in '73, let's see here. It ended up in front of the terminal. In '74, it was relocated to the Oklahoma State Fairgrounds, and that was through the Historical Society, right?
I don't believe so.
Okay, I'm corrected. But a lot of history here, so we've got to figure it out. But in any event, the airplane sat from '74 until, here's another picture of it, until 2006 or 8. Here it is. So in '06, it was moved down to Metrotech, where it sat for about a year, and they didn't really know what to do with it. The pilot's window was cracked, and so the pigeons made a home of it for about 30 years. So it was a bit nasty to clean that thing out, but in any event, we'll go on. Here's some more pictures right here. This is when it was offloaded over here on 50th at the Public Works facility. This is when they were loading it up to move it to Francis Tuttle. The city of Bethany allowed them to, the Francis Tuttle guys with Kenny Payton and Dennis, to start the restoration of it. This is when they offloaded it off the trailer. The gentleman underneath the left wing is, that's Kenny Payton, and he has taken this little airplane as a labor of love and has worked on it continuously since it hit Francis Tuttle out here. And they took the wing off of it and the engines, and today the wing is still on that little rack, and it's over in the parking lot, and it has been rebuilt, and it's just waiting to be mated to the fuselage. This picture is probably about 10 years old, where they've taken all the skins off and they're rebuilding, taking all the corroded pieces out and replacing them, and Kenny would only let his prize, really good students work on the airplane. Here's another shot of it, and then this picture was taken about 2 weeks ago, so you can see all the new sheet metal, the green metal right there's the new stuff. They've got new windows in the sides. And this is a C-47 that was also out at the fairgrounds. This airplane participated in D-Day, and then it was Dean McGee's personal ride at Kerr McGee. That was Kerr McGee's first corporate aircraft right there. Not in that condition, of course. But this was also at the fairgrounds. It sat out there forever, and it was moved down to a facility out there by Norman, Newcastle. And those guys took it and stripped the paint all off of it. They took the wings off of it and painted it. This right here is the little, what do you call that, a commemorative?
An interpretive panel.
Interpretive panel. Let me interpret that right. Okay, but there's several of those. This airplane is on display out at in Midwest City in one of the parks out there. And there's the aircraft right there as it sits today. I know there's been a lot of discussion about people wanting the aircraft to be inside, and nobody wants it inside more than I do. However, that's just not going to happen. In order to put it inside the History Center, we would have to move it fuselage and the wing and put it together much like you'd put a little ship together inside of a bottle. And just all the noise and racket and rivets getting pounded and so on, it's just not going to work. But the History Center is going to take the aircraft over, and they're going to maintain it in a wonderful condition like that. It's beautiful. And when I'm long gone, the Blue Goose will be maintained in perpetuity out here at Eldon Lyon. Just for illustrative purposes, I took some pictures of some of the aircraft out at the 45th Infantry. This is a Cessna 310. And you can see the pedestal that it's on and the framework. And it's real similar to what we're going to have built for the Blue Goose. Another picture, there's a helicopter in the background. But my point is, outside, the Blue Goose has been living outside for most of her life. And so with the History Center taking care of it, it'll be in wonderful hands from now on. This is a picture of it when it was at the fairgrounds, and this is similar to what we're going to have designed and built. There's another picture right there. Here's a aerial view of Eldon Lyon Park. 36th Street is down here at the bottom. The 39th Expressway is up there at the top. The little school's up there on the top right. And what we have decided, or what we would like to do, proposed, that's just KP and me. We want to put it right there in the divided roadway as you're coming into the park. It's going to be sitting there looking at you. I want to acknowledge the different companies and people that have participated. I have made my rounds around, and I've gotten every single component that it's going to require, that's going to take to have the airplane out there. Everybody's donated something. This is not going to cost anybody, well, it's going to cost people money, but not us. And Twin Commander Flying Group gave some money initially to get the project started. Francis Tuttle has used it to train hundreds and hundreds of students out there, and they've turned out many good hands that have gone to Tinker and AAR. City of Bethany, of course. I called Sherwin-Williams, and they're going to donate the paint for the airplane. Val Air is going to let some of the painters out there. When we had Downtown Air Park, we had a paint shop, and some of the guys that worked for me are now working out there, and they've wholeheartedly agreed to paint the airplane, provided I buy them some beer on a Saturday afternoon, I think. Allied Steel Crane Company, if some of the pictures that you saw back in '74 and so on, Allied moved the airplane back then. And I've known those guys for a long time, and Wally Bryce was the owner, and he actually had a Turbo Commander back in the day. And his, I think it's his grandson works there now. And I spoke with him, and he absolutely agreed. Allen Contracting. Allen, you might know those guys. They're the ones that have Broadway Extension torn up right now, and have had it torn up for 2 years, and they're getting ready to tear up the whole interchange at I-44 and Broadway. But he and I were in engineering school together at OSU, and I called him, and he said absolutely. We're dealing with an Apple product here, and my PowerPoint's in Windows, so the last company on the bottom, last but not least, is FSB Engineering, that has agreed to do the design of the pedestal and the column and the concrete and probably some of the sidewalk designs and so on. I think that's the last of my pictures. Yeah. So this has been a long, wonderful journey, and tonight I stand here proudly and ask for your vote to make a deal with this gentleman right here and put the Blue Goose in its final resting place where it deserves to be. Thank you. Questions?
You had spoken about the pedestal. Explain to them like how tall, because when they think that thing's setting in the middle median, it's not setting on the grass necessarily. So how tall is that pedestal?
It'll probably be between 12 and 15 feet tall, just out of range of spray paint cans. And yeah, it'll be out of the way for hooligans to get after it.
Anybody have any questions?
I'd like to make a comment. This has been many years in the making. I can remember when Tom wanted it moved, and we got it moved. And I can remember the trips I made out to Francis Tuttle and talked to the professor, saw the names of the students that had worked on the plane that are written inside that plane, and the stories that had been told of the former employees and they had worked on those planes and built those planes. So I think it's really important that Bethany hold on to this and be sure that it is nurtured and taken care of by the Historical Society. And I think this is a really good way to make it happen. If you're ready.
Absolutely. And that, you know, probably hundreds, if not thousands of employees went through the doors over there. And if it weren't for this little airplane being on a tour through the U.S. looking for capital and money to find a production place, that's my grandfather and his brother were introduced to Ted Smith when this little airplane. My dad and my grandfather both flew this airplane.
Mayor, if I could make a motion,
Absolutely.
let's get this thing passed and get the ball on the rolling.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. I thank the council for helping us get this project completed for many people who have had a heartbeat for this plane, from
Yeah,
the
this
Amos
is,
family and the Ray family, and we're excited about this.
yeah, thank you all very much. Thank you.
Mr.
Thank-
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, please.
I'm Dan Provo. I'm the director of the Oklahoma History Center with the Oklahoma Historical Society. We appreciate your vote. We appreciate your willingness to entrust us with the safety of this aircraft, and we look forward to working with your city, with the Parks Department, with you all to make it a permanent fixture forevermore at that city park. And we are committed to making it happen and to making it happen in the best possible way and to taking care of it in perpetuity.
Thank you very much, sir. I would like to move items 10, 11, and 12, 3 executive sessions to between, right before item 3, so we can get the executive sessions taken care of. Do I need a motion to move those? No? Item 10 is proposed executive session, consideration and possible approval to enter into executive session for the purpose of discussing fiscal year 2020 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Bethany and the FOP Lodge 161. Item 11 is executive session, consideration and possible approval to enter into executive session for the purposes of discussing fiscal year 2020 collective bargaining agreement between the City of Bethany and IAFF Local 2085. And item 12 is discussion and update from attorneys concerning pending legal action and claims against the responsible parties concerning contamination of public water supply of the City of Bethany caused by contaminants migrating from the Oklahoma City Airport property. Some planning for a path forward, strategy for litigation, discussion and defendant's offer to confess judgment, and discussion of settlement agreement with Oklahoma City parties regarding pollution of public water supply. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. And we shall return. Thank you for your patience. Moving on to item 13 and 14, proposed action following executive session, consideration and possible approval of settlement agreement with Oklahoma City parties only for claims arising from the pollution of public water supply, and authorizing mayor to execute agreement. And 14, proposed action following executive session, consideration and possible approval or rejection of offer to confess judgment submitted by defendants Gulfstream and Rockwell pertaining to litigation described in executive session, agenda item above.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
I would like to make a motion to find that the executive session was necessary to process the pending litigation in the public interest. I'd also like to make a motion.
Second. Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. to approve a settlement agreement with the Oklahoma City Airport Trust, the City of Oklahoma City, and the Oklahoma City Water Utility Trust in the case of the City of Bethany versus Gulfstream and Rockwell et al.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Mr. Mayor, if I may,
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make a motion to reject the offer to confess filed by Gulfstream and Rockwell in the case of City of Bethany versus Gulfstream and Rockwell et al.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Let's move back to item 3. You want to read that?
I will. This is consideration and possible approval of Resolution 1524, resolution of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, declaring the opioid crisis, including the unlawful diversion, prescription opioids, opioid abuse, addiction, morbidity, and mortality, a public nuisance in the City of Bethany, directing the filing of a civil suit against the opioid manufacturers, distributors, and potentially other third parties to abate this public nuisance and to seek relief for all other penalties, damages, injunctive relief, and any other remedy available at law or in equity, finding that such legal action is essential to protecting the interests of the City of Bethany and its citizens, approving a conflict waiver with the law firm of McAfee and Taft regarding the case of City of Bethany versus Gulfstream and Rockwell, case number 16 CB 10050, and approving and authorizing the execution of a representation and fee agreement with law firms of McAfee and Taft and Fulmer Sill PLLC. This actually has been on the agenda a couple of different times. The reason that it was tabled the last time was so that we could nail down the conflict waivers. As you know, McAfee Taft actually represents the Oklahoma City parties in the Rockwell litigation. And we've been in contact with our attorneys and received written verification that they don't have any objection to the conflict. They will build a Chinese wall. I'll be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, the recommendation is that you approve Resolution 1524 and authorize its execution.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 4 is consideration, discussion, and possible approval to declare property of the City of Bethany identified in the attached list surplus and possible approval of an authorization to sell or otherwise dispose of the property as directed by the interim city manager after notice provided by posting on the city's website, placement on the city's Facebook page, and publication in the Bethany Tribune. Do I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor, I have a comment.
Yes.
I've got dibs on the Bethany mascot costume. With that in mind, I'd make a motion to approve.
Is that in there?
I think that's a consulate.
Wow.
Don't want to see that.
My money's just as good as everybody else's.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes.
And just because it's generated a little discussion, actually the law provides that once it goes to a public auction, because typically members of the public body and employees can't bid on things, but once it goes to a public auction after proper publication in accordance with state law, then anyone can bid on the mascot. So just in case.
So the dibs have no bearing.
Right.
As long as we're legal, right?
Right.
Item 5, consideration and possible approval of the library playground certificate of substantial completion. Do I have a motion?
I have a question.
Okay.
Several, as a matter of fact. There were several punch items on this that have not been completed, and I have some concerns about that. And
Punch items such as?
I'm sorry, this is on, I'm sorry, I apologize. The addition, okay, never mind. I'm sorry.
Can you address some of those?
Yeah, there are some items on the punch list. Some of them refer to training manuals, repairing some minor things that were on the playground. I met with Todd on those today. He felt like those were insignificant things that are already in progress of being repaired, but we also have a 5% withhold until things are completed to our satisfaction.
Is that 5%? Is that 5% going to take care of all those things that are not completed down there?
Yes, he believed that it would, because they are not significant. It's just some scratches here. They're going to replace one section of the slide, and he believed it would be significant. I mean, significant to cover.
Do I have a motion for approval? Do I have a second? Please cast your vote. I would like to publicly say I think that the company Playwell has done a fantastic job putting this playground together with the help of my beautiful wife and her team. But I think that's probably the best all abilities playground I've ever seen. I just wanted to publicly say that because I think they've done a great job. Item 6 is consideration and possible approval of agreement for extra services with Dewberry Architect for library project. Do I have a motion or any questions?
Do we need any explanation on this? Does everybody know what it's for?
I'd like to know about number 3.
Number 3.
There's 3 items on that.
Oh, yes.
Okay, the number 3rd item where we're going to get charged $20,000. Could you kind of explain that to us?
Yes. So there's no questions on, do we want to do anything with that first item first, or you want me to go to the explanation on?
I can vote for 1 and 2. I'll make a
Okay.
motion to approve 1 and 2.
Okay.
Want to do that?
The change order on number 7 deals with lowering the concrete drive that was designed to put the book drop in the proper place for the automatic sorter that the library system was going to put in there. And anyway, there was some confusion between the library system and the architect about where exactly that was going to be. By the time they got the drawings, the concrete had already been poured. So there's another issue. It turned out that the book drop would be too low now to put it in the proper place for the sorter inside. So they wanted us to tear that concrete out, put it back down to grade level so that it would be at the right spot. The other issue is there was some masonry that was not installed properly. Well, it wasn't installed to where the weep holes would be above the concrete drive as it was. So we either have to tear out some masonry, 3 rows of masonry, and have them redo those weep holes, or tear out the concrete and put it down to where it belongs. There's some discussion about tearing out that brick on there that may damage the integrity of the building. They don't recommend doing that, but it still leaves $20,000 that somebody has to pay for to pull the drive out and put it back down. The library system has said that if we choose not to lower the drive, that they will not put that book sorter in that facility. They'll move it to another facility. So I will say that this project has about $200,000 in construction contingency and about $500,000 left on the project contingency. So there's about $700,000 left in the contingency to pay for those sort of things. David Davis is constructing a list of all of the extra things, the spray foam and some of the other things that you all approved for this. And we intend to address all that with Shiloh and see if there's some monies that we can get back out of that. But there's no guarantee on any of that. But anyway, he is working on that, so it'll just decide whatever you want to do.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I think I made a mistake. You're on number 6, and I was addressing number 7.
Okay.
Well, I'll go back to number 6, and I'll make my motion to approve item number 6 on the agenda.
For the Dewberry, okay.
Yes.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Now then, excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Well, you got to call number 7.
Item 7, yes, sir, sorry. Thanks for correcting me. Consideration and possible approval of change order number 12, dated May 1st, 2019, with Shiloh Construction for Library Project. Mr. Todd?
I personally, and it's me, I may not be the majority, well, I'm not the majority, but I can't. Somebody down the line messed up, and now they want us to pay $20,000, and I'm just not in favor of that. So that part of it, number 3 on that item, so I could vote for 1 and 2. So if you want to break those out, I can, however we want to do that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
the $20,000 would be added to the list that Mr. David Davis is creating, that we will attempt to negotiate with Shiloh at the end of the project, correct?
That's my understanding.
So if we need to, and that's unsuccessful, we have other options that we can implement if and when in order to recoup that cost. Is that right?
After meeting with the library system and David Davis last week, we also found out that there might be some culpability with Dewberry, but we chose not to alienate Dewberry at this point because we'd like them to see this project through, but there may be some way to recoup some of those costs from the architects as well.
But Mr. Mayor, the function is to finish the library, and then we can assess the cost overruns to determine the best plan of action at that point. Is that fair?
That's my understanding.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if we were not to have this book sorter, and I apologize, was not a part of discussions to have known about this, would this be a ongoing expense that we'd have to pay someone for sorting and various things at the library?
I don't know what option.
No, that would be the library's expense. They would just do it manually like they do in some of the other places. This one just, they say it's more efficient, you quicker turnaround with the books, and it's a bit of a point of interest with people going in to watch it work, so that's the advantage.
But then we still have to address the weep holes in the brick if we don't tear this out.
We do.
So it's still going to come back to us.
Mhm.
Right. They've talked about going in and drilling holes in different places, trying to establish a way for the moisture to seep out. That's a less than desirable way to do it, but that is an option.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
we're listed as an additional insured on Shiloh's insurance policy. Is that correct?
I'm not sure about that, Council
I would
Palmer.
hope we are, because if we are, then that would be an option later on at some point in time.
They're going to be covered by bonds, by the performance bond. Plus, if I'm not mistaken, and I haven't looked at this agreement, but there should be a minimum of a 5% retainage in project costs also. So that does also afford the council a measure of protection.
Mr. Mayor, there's 3 items on item number 7, and for item 1 and 2, I move for approval thereof.
Second.
Did you have something to say?
May I?
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, one thing that I would suggest is that because of the change order, the way it's presented, if you in fact do want to break them out, my suggestion would be that you might table them to the next meeting, and that way it would make it a little bit more clear going forward. And I don't know how the council feels about that, but.
Can I make a comment on that? We are getting close to the time where they're trying to complete the library, and I think any further delay is going to put the library system in a place where they're already asking for damages for delay. No, not necessarily. We're going to pay those, but they're asking for someone to pay them, but I think it's going to put it in further delay if we wait another 2 weeks to address this issue.
But if we don't address number 3, I mean, we're still going to have to address the weep holes.
Yes.
At this point, let's not let $20,000 get in our way from maintaining a state-of-the-art facility, that we have other options.
I'd like to hear from council, if we do in fact have rights of recourse once this is done, can we come back after that because they're asking us to pay $20,000 for somebody else's mistake. And I'm having a hard time with that. So if you could help me to get comfortable.
And, I mean, this is going to be my broad qualification. It's like I've told several of the council members, I mean, this is kind of an occasion where I'm being asked to give an opinion on the fly, which is part of my function. But one thing that I can tell you is most of the construction contracts do provide a measure of protection for the council. And of course, like I said, you do have the 5% retainage. I believe that David has done a yeoman's job in terms of representing the council in terms of this. Now, can I guarantee with 100% certainty that the council has the ability to get this back? No, I mean, because I, of course, can't render that opinion. But my legal opinion is that there are going to be sufficient protections contained within this in order to allow the council to come back, not just with this item, but I believe that there have been several other issues as well. But I will get with David and I will get a copy of the contract and we'll provide some additional information to the council.
But I'm in agreement with you, $20,000. We need to address this anyway.
It kills two birds with one stone. The weep poles are going to have to be repaired one way or the other. And we don't want to lose the state-of-the-art operation that the library feels is necessary for this particular location.
If that $20,000 can be addressed down the line, then I can go with number 3.
Do you want to amend your motion?
I will amend my motion to include number 3.
I'll amend my second.
Please cast your votes. Item 8 is consideration and possible approval of mayor's appointment of Jeff Knapp as chairman, John Herron and Steve Palmer to the new TIF Oversight Committee. Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 9 is discussion and possible approval of filing a release of Liz Pendon's notice for 3131 North MacArthur Boulevard. Yeah, we do need a report on that.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I've got some brief comments to get everyone up to speed because I know not everyone on council has been part of this from the beginning. In September of 2017, council directed the filing of a lawsuit to cause a nuisance at the location of 3131 MacArthur. In October of 2017, the lawsuit was filed. In January of 2019, the property was sold to a new owner, and that new owner approached staff in February of 2019 with a proposal to rehabilitate the structure and eliminate the nuisance and the blight. So we brought that to City Council, and City Council voted that the lawsuit be held in abeyance pending proof of the owner's ability and intent to bring forth improvements of the building. We passed a resolution. We gave some times, if some of you remember, on within 90 days he needs to do this, and with 90 days. Well, since then, he has been working on the building, doing some demo work, some roof repair, and some soffits. Now he's ready to move to the inside rehabilitation of the building. He cannot borrow the money for the improvements with this lawsuit pending. So he is asking that the council consider dropping the lawsuit so he can go ahead and borrow the money to do the commercial renovations to the interior of the building. He has submitted plans. He has pulled a building permit. His plans have been approved, so he is ready to go upon being able to borrow the money and get the project off the ground. Staff, both community development and I believe economic development, Hank and I have talked, believe that he will go through with this project. He is good of his word. He's already put money into it. He's bought the building. He started renovations. And so we really think that he will rehabilitate the building, and he has some plans to lease some space and some other things.
If he doesn't perform, can we still go back?
If I could, and Granted, it's been a while since I've looked at the law of lease pendants, but basically the lease pendants is something that is filed of record in land records, okay?
Right,
So,
right.
like, I mean, you know, when you do a condemnation action or something like that, I mean, typically you want to record that in land records. But as far as the lawsuit, that's not what's on the agenda tonight, only the lease pendants is. And so I'll work with Amanda, and I think David was the one that originally handled it. So you still have the ability to handle this through the process of the litigation. All this does is clear title so he can get a mortgage.
I think that's very important that we let this guy get moving.
Yeah, the lease pendants, all this does is clear title so he can get a mortgage, and the litigation remains, at least at the present time, in play.
Mayor, question.
Yes.
Amanda or Hank, I've not been by the building for a while, since it's been being worked on. How does it look at this point?
I
Is
was
it
there
coming
I
along?
went by today. It still looks pretty rough, but there are people there working. They have started cleaning it up. I mean, maybe better than what it was. They've done a lot of work on securing the building, and that type of stuff. They were out there doing some demo work today, so there's definitely, it looks to be work is being done, and they are working on it.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion?
Motion,
I make a motion for approval of this, number 9.
second.
Please cast your votes.
Thank you.
Item 15, before I ask legal to read this, I would like to say that in a special meeting, council voted 9-0 to put this back on the agenda for consideration with the revised changes and policies and procedures in place prior to any TIF development agreement.
Consideration and possible approval of ordinance number 1970, an ordinance approving and adopting the Northwest 39th Gateway Project Plan pursuant to the Oklahoma Local Development Act, identifying and establishing 3 new increment districts temporarily identified in the project plan as increment districts A, B, and C, designating and adopting project area and increment district boundaries, deferring the naming and dates of the creation of increment districts A, B, and C, adopting certain findings, authorizing the City of Bethany as the principal public entity to carry out and administer the project plan, establishing a tax apportionment fund, declaring apportioned funds to be special funds of the City of Bethany, authorizing the use of increment revenues for the payment of certain project costs, authorizing the Bethany Development Authority to carry out certain provisions of the project plan, ratifying and confirming the actions, recommendations, and finding of the Review Committee and the Planning Commission, directing continuing apportionment, and providing for severability and declaring an emergency.
Do I have a motion or any discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please cast your votes. Item B, approval of sections 1 through 17 of ordinance number 1970. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item C, approval of section 18 of ordinance 1970, the emergency section. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'd make a motion.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Please cast your votes. Item 16 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. There's a 3-minute limit. No action may be taken on matters under this item, and I would like to emphasize that there will be no trading of time allowed. Is there anyone who'd like to address the council? Please step to the microphone and give us your name and address.
My name's Cecil Bowles, and I'm the Chief Operations Officer for Putnam City Schools, and I'm here representing Putnam City Schools, or the opportunity to express our gratitude for support in this endeavor. Partnerships with the district and the patrons and the taxpayers and the local government are what allow us to look into the future and have a vision. If you look around and look at last bond issues for Putnam City Schools, the patrons have supported them to a greater percentage than has been seen in the past, and in the recent past for sure. I think the last one we passed was 79% approval rate on a bond issue for schools. That tells us there's a level of trust there with everybody. We're doing what we say. It's really nice, and it's really cool to see, 9-0 on the thing. It's like, wow, we really are going to move forward. I moved here in '68 and have been here forever. And so outside of a 4-year stint in the Army, I came back, and it's really nice to see it going, So I just wanted to say I appreciate your support. I appreciate your look into the future, because I've seen the 1968 Bethany, and I've seen the 1980 Bethany, and I've seen the 2000 Bethany, and there's a difference. And the 2050 Bethany, I don't think I'll probably be here, but I might be. And so and so I just appreciate your support from the district, as a patron, and as a taxpayer. It's like, I appreciate your support, and we wholeheartedly support these kind of endeavors that have a positive impact on our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to address the council?
My name's Priscilla Cude, and I'm the president and CEO of First Bethany Bank. I've been there 27 years, and I would just like to express my pleasure that with the vote of the TIF project as well. I've seen Bethany somewhat stagnate. I've heard businesses that have had an interest in locating here, and what they have felt the perception of Bethany was. I don't want to go into that, but just basically how pleased I am, and that the council seems to be moving forward into the future, and I think that is very it looks upon what the citizens of Bethany want. You all have had this council looks very different than what it did 5-7 years ago. Lots of new faces. You've had the strategic plan that the citizens of Bethany helped work on, and I think that shows that the citizens are ready for a change as well. So I just want to say thank you for being able to look into the future, and let's grow Bethany.
Thank you. Is there anyone else like to address the council?
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Kent Schellenberger. I live at 7812 Northwest 33rd Street. Been almost a lifelong member, but I was a member of the Comprehensive Review Plan a few years ago, and this council, not necessarily you, but the council engaged a firm from Colorado. I think we spent over $150,000 for their services. But I want to say at the end of their study, their recollection struck very loudly with me. And there are several members here and on this council that were a part of this. But they said in the 60s, Bethany was relevant. In the 70s, Bethany was relevant. You're no longer relevant. And I'm summarizing and plagiarizing a little bit. But this vote of 9-0, hopefully we can be relevant again. And I think we can. Cecil Bowles from Putnam City spoke loudly about this. They would be the entity that might be against a TIF, because there are several school districts across the state that would be against a TIF. But there is an ad valorem reimbursement fund that's set up through the school funding formula. The Oklahoma State Aid does have a funding formula that is an equitable funding formula. So they really will be the beneficiaries in years to come of this ad valorem. So I do thank you for this 9-0 vote. And we are ready to get Bethany moving again. and this speaks pretty loudly. So thank you for your time, and thank you for your support of this Gateway project.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Mayor, Council, I'm Mark Privet. I'm an optometrist in Bethany, and I live in Bethany. I live on 39th Street. And I just wanted to say a hearty thank you to the mayor, to the city staff, and the city council. It's not easy doing what you guys are doing, and I know sometimes you may have to make hard decisions, and I just applaud you for the 9-0 vote, and I'm excited about moving forward. So thanks to you guys for moving us forward. And I'm on the BETA committee along with Dr. Schellenberger and some other members, and we've all been in favor of trying to improve economic development. And I think this is a big step forward in improving our tax base and also our number of rooftops. So I'm hopeful this will propel us forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Dustin Stearman, 4604 North Central Road. Thank you guys, all of you, for that vote. I relocated my company from Oklahoma City to Bethany about 2 years ago, and it's a vote like this that makes me confident that I made the right decision. And I know there's been a lot of spirited debate, and that's good, but I appreciate the vision of the mayor, worked with Mr. Smart, obviously the counselors up here. I know you guys have gone over a lot of details behind closed doors in front of us, and much appreciate the effort and the vote. So it's a good move in the right direction. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? Item 17 is interim city attorney's report.
I don't have anything.
18 is interim city manager's report.
I don't have anything further.
Item 19 is the mayor and council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Let's start down here tonight at Ms. Sandoval.
No report for tonight.
Mr. Goodwin?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Mr. Todd? Mr. Palmer?
I want to thank everybody in the room for celebrating my birthday in the city council chamber. We had a wonderful time on the horseshoe. 9-0 vote. I'm excited. I believe in Bethany. We're open for business. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Vice Mayor Knapp?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to, thank everybody for being here. I was not here at the last meeting. I apologize to anyone who was here and I wasn't. But just thank you for being part of this community and being involved in the community. That's all I have.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing.
SR?
Always appropriate to thank staff. They're the backbone of this city, and thank all the individuals here that took their time out to show up tonight and be a part of the process. We do appreciate it. Thank you.
Mrs. Larson?
Short and sweet, I ditto Mr. Henner. Thank you.
I'd just like to say that it is a joy walking out of City Hall. Not that it's because I'm glad to be getting out of City Hall, but because now when you walk out of City Hall, you hear the laughter of children, and it is awesome. And everybody's noticed, and everybody's talking about it. And I just want to, again, applaud staff and the playground committee and the Playwell company for putting that thing together. I'm excited about the library, soon to open up, Lord willing. And I will also like to say thanks to the council for that 9-0 vote to start moving forward. And we have details we got to talk about, but we will be moving forward. I will say this, something that hit me, and then I'm done. I've said for 2 years that our greatest days are ahead of us. And I would like to clarify something that just struck me the other day is, our greatest days aren't necessarily ahead of us. Our greatest day is today. And it's every day we wake up. if we're making the right decisions and we come together as a council and as a community, then that day that we're experiencing, we're living, is our greatest day. And I just want to continue to move forward with courage and boldness and take our citizens further. And so I'm excited about that and excited about this council and what we're doing. Item 20 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 21st, 2019. Call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1 is the consent docket A through C. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is consideration and possible approval of water treatment plant quicklime bid specifications and authorizations, authorize staff to solicit bids, but I know Beth Ann has a comment.
I do have a really quick comment. This morning, when I was reviewing the agenda, I noticed that this particular item had the City of Bethany on there instead of the Public Works Authority. So I talked to Mr. Seymour. What we're going to do is ask, if you're so inclined, for you all to go ahead and approve it, and then what we'll do is we'll change the language in the bid specs to reflect the Public Works Authority, just to make sure everything is correct. So that's all I have.
Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion for approval.
Please cast your votes. Item 3 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 21st, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is consent docket A through C. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 21st, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A through C. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. Item 2 is new business. Do we have any new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until May 21st, 2019. And with that, we are adjourned.